Welcome, welcome to another episode of Realtor Hacks, Tips, and Tricks. Hope everyone's having a good Monday. My name is Hallie McCrory. I'm one of the hosts for this podcast. I am a two-time icon agent with eXp Realty and host of Emmy-nominated TV show The American Dream here in Dallas, Texas. I also work San Angelo, Texas. That's where I started my real estate career. And help coach for Tarek El Moussa's team at eXp Realty as well. And I've got my co-host on here, Miss Casey Stiers, and her sidekick, Rocky the Rockman.
Rocky.
She's also a host for American Dream TV in Raleigh, North Carolina, and she is all things Miss Downtown. You might know her from Good Evening Glenwood, her podcast, if you're a Raleigh person listening in on this. And today we've got a really awesome guest on, Jim Remley. I'm super excited I got connected with him. He's been an agent for years and got into coaching. He coaches agents, but more specifically, he's known for coaching brokerages. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit more on building a team and, recruiting agents and agent retention. So this isn't a topic we always, talk about, but I think it's important. We will want to cover, where everybody is, wherever they might be in their real estate career. So this would be, more the longer game. But me and Casey are both really interested in this, especially being at eXp, where revenue share is a big, pillar of our businesses. It doesn't have to be, but for me and Casey, it is. Definitely. So welcome, Jim. That long introduction.
Hey,
we're super excited to have you on. Yes.
I'm excited and honored to be here. It's really my pleasure.
Where are you joining us out of?
I'm out of Southern Oregon, just over the California border. So
okay, awesome.
Beautiful Southern Oregon.
Yes, that's on my bucket list. I've heard there's a good wine coast.
Yes. We have 70 wineries in our market area. So we're like weather of south of France or something. It's a big winery area.
I love it. So, every podcast, each of our guests, I like them to give a little history of, how they got into their space within real estate and where their journey started.
So I got in the real estate business when I was 19, college dropout. A buddy of mine talked me into getting my license. I finished, he didn't. And, had like a lot of top producers, had a rough start for my first 6 months, but the second year in my business, I took 150 listings, and I like you, rose through the ranks, and I was with the C21 at that time, so I was a Centurion agent, top 1% in the nation. And then at 23, opened my first company, grew that to 17 offices across the state of Oregon. We were the largest independent in Oregon for a while.
Wow.
So, sold my interest in that in 2006, before the crash. I worked for NAR for 10 years, teaching all the designation programs. Then I got recruited to come down and help another company build from about 38 agents. I became an owner of that company in Southern Oregon, where I live today. And we grew that to 250 agents in 3 offices, went from $100 billion in production to $1.4 billion in production, closing 3,000 transactions a year in a tiny little population base of 80,000. So, that's my little snippet, my little background.
Yes, no, I can definitely relate to that. I'm currently in Dallas right now, but I work and live in both San Angelo and Dallas, Texas. And San Angelo is where I got started, and it's a town of 100,000 people. So
right?
I can definitely relate. Yes,
yeah.
But that's where I also started my team and whatnot, and I love having a little bit of both right now. The suburban and the urban lifestyle. So,
Love
and
it.
even a little bit of the rural with the ranches in West Texas.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to know, I guess I actually have a question after you just said that. So it's like you started at 19, started your own brokerage at 23. Did you always know, or did you know pretty early on that you wanted to start a brokerage or like a team?
No,
did it just happen?
Kind of an interesting story. I created one of the first teams in the nation. Actually, it was me and another guy, and our assistant. We were a team. And back in the early '90s, when we were doing this, people were like, "What do you guys mean you're in a team? What does that mean?" And they thought we were romantic partners, not like business partners. They couldn't understand that 2 guys would have a team. Why don't you independent agents, right?
Yeah,
like, a team, right? So what happened is we were such top producers in our little market. We figured out quickly that we would be number 2 as an office with our little team. So why are we paying our brokerage? Let's just go open our own office. In retrospect, I don't know that was the best solution. It became the best solution after we grew to 17 offices and whatnot. But in the first week, we could have definitely made more money as a team than we did owning a brokerage. But we grew it, and then we started to grow from there. But the idea behind it was, I thought, hey, if I can just show people what I'm doing and help people kind of replicate my business model and help them and teach them and coach them and train them, then I can just have a lot of people kind of out there in the market kind of doing what I'm doing. And that was kind of my mindset at the beginning. I can tell you the problem with that mindset in recruiting is that for the first 5 years I had my company, I would rent a hotel room every month. I would advertise. I'd say, hey, you think about getting a real estate license, come to this hotel room. We're going to talk to you about the conference room, all the ins and outs of the real estate business. So we get 30 or 40 people every time. And then you get, because, we did a pretty good job presenting. We get 3 or 4 people that would say, yeah, I want to get my license. And of that, we would hire 1 or 2. And we thought, we're crushing it. We're doing amazing. The problem is 87% of agents don't make it in the first 2 years. Yeah. So you are going to have this massive attrition. 9 out of 10 people aren't going to make it. The one that does make it, the problem is because they start with you, they think the grass is greener at some other company. And so half of those leave you anyway, right? So we said, we got to change this. This is not working. So I decided I'm going to pivot towards experienced agents. And that's really when my career took off. And that's really when our brokerages started to grow.
Got it. Okay, cool. That's such a crazy turn of events, but makes sense.
Yeah.
So, so then you had your real estate career. At what point did you get into coaching, or was there another step in between there?
Yeah, so coaching just kind of happened organically. What happened is I taught for NAR, so I met a lot of people. But in terms of brokerage coaching, one of my claims to fame is we were able to help our little team in the population base of 80,000 sell $1.4 billion in sales. So we got ranked in the top 500 companies in America. So we're competing against companies in LA and New York and Dallas and everywhere else. And people said, Jim, how are you turning these agents in this little tiny town into superstars over and over and over again? And that was where I got a lot of brokerages reaching out to me and saying, I need to help my agents replicate the same thing. Because what the ultimate attraction for anybody that's joining any team or any brokerage is you can have the best song and dance, but at the end of the day, it boils down to per agent productivity. Right. So you need to be able to share with people, my agents on my team are more productive than agents on any other team in the market. Right. My agents in my office are more productive than any other agents in the market. And if I can demonstrate that, then the proof is in the pudding, right? And that's where a lot of people are attracted to me.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And that's like still a namesake to this day.
Right.
Okay, interesting. So, okay, so that's how you got into coaching. And so now your business is e-coaching or e-real estate coaching.
Yeah, e-real estate coach. I coach offices across the country. We've got about 40 offices we coach, and we meet with them twice a month. And we dig into recruiting and retention, system building, technology, profitability, commission plans. And we really try to help them develop a recruiting platform that attracts agents. We don't want to be chasing agents. Yeah, because that's, agents don't like to be chased, right? Nobody likes to be sold, but everybody likes to buy. Yes. So then the thought is, well, how do I attract these people, right? What's the secret sauce there? So I'm not having to cold call these people for the rest of my life. Right. So the solution to that is we treat it like you're an NFL team owner. Like you own an NFL team. How does an NFL team owner recruit, right? Are they, door knocking, cold calling? Probably not so much. But what they are doing is they are building relationships. And so what we say is, identify the 200 or 300 people in your market area. If you've got that many, maybe it's 500 or 600, and you say, these are the people I'd love to have working for me. Right. I'm going to use CRM, and I'm going to say, these are the people. This is my target audience. Now I'm going to reach out to them. And if I was reaching out to you guys, I might say, hey guys, I just want to tell you, I've been watching your podcast and you guys are crushing it. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are so aggressive with what you're doing. And it's just amazing to me. I just want to say, it's just a compliment. You guys are fantastic. And if there's ever an opportunity to have a conversation about making a career change, I'd love to make sure that the door's open with me. Yeah. And I'm not asking necessarily to a meeting, but I'm giving you a compliment. And just by opening the door, by having that compliment, you're going to think, if I'm never unhappy with my company, maybe I'll talk to Jim.
Yeah.
So here's the situation. The situation is that we all know people that moved last year. They moved companies and they didn't join your company or they didn't join your team, right? You're like, why didn't they come talk to me? Right. And the reason is they didn't come talk to you is because you didn't open the door to tell them that you have an attraction to them. And this is the agents that are terrible at recruiting are just recruiting to try to put somebody in their downline or try to put somebody in their system. They're not recruiting from the heart. And they're not saying, here's why you're attractive to me. It's a lot like dating. You got to say, why are you attractive to me? You're attractive because you have great negotiation skills. You're active in the community. I love the way you helped me in that last transaction get over that hump. There's got to be a reason, not just that I want another notch in my belt. See that? And if I'm recruiting at an NFL team level, I'm saying I'm recruiting you because you run an amazing 40-yard dash. Your touchdown record is amazing. I'm finding reasons to compliment you. And then what I'm doing is I'm just stacking benefits. Every time I'm emailing you, I'm texting you, we're having a meeting, I'm just saying, hey, here's all the reasons why you should consider joining us. And eventually everybody's happy until they're not, right? And so you're extremely happy where you're at. You're like, this is the best thing since sliced bread. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. Everything's fantastic. You should work here. I'm not going there. Until you're not, right? Until something goes wrong with where you're at. You get pissed at the broker. Somebody makes you mad in the office. Your technology fails. You have a bad transaction with somebody. And suddenly you're on the phone to Jim and you say, Jim, I just had a bad day. Let's talk. And this is the way recruiting happens, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of my approach.
I like that because it's really not even like I think like it can be anxiety provoking to people to think of like what is my reach out going to be, but it's just as simple as opening the door like you said. And that's not like if someone did that to me, I wouldn't. Sometimes you get messages and you're just like,
ugh,
that gave me the ick.
Yeah, it's gross, right?
Yeah.
And I think here's an example of this. I like to call this hot sheet recruiting. Like if I'm in a broker, we just went through a training class last week on this with our brokerage teams. And I said, just go through your hot sheet tomorrow morning and look at everybody that had a new listing, new pended, new sold. And here's what you're going to do. If you got a new listing, you're going to reach out to them and you're going to text the person who got a new listing and say, hey, I just saw you took a new listing today. Congratulations. I just want to compliment you. I just looked at your listing. I love the photos, man. I love the description. I'm not going to say a word about recruiting. I'm not going to bring it up. If I start our relationship by, with the recruiting coming out of my mouth or something like, let's go to lunch, let's go to coffee, I want to tell you about my company, you're going to run. I'm going to start with a compliment and just say, hey, just did a great job. That's it. And then I may come back in a week or so, and now I'm going to build into a meeting. Or if they're a pending transaction, I might say, hey, I just saw you had a pending transaction this morning. I'm just curious because I'm coaching my team this week. What was the activity level? Did you get like tens of showings? Or you just get this offer out of the blue? What was it like for you? Get into the conversation with people. That's what the ultimate strategy is relationship building. The reason you're not recruiting people is because people don't look at you as somebody that's their friend. No one's ever going to come to work for you unless they feel they have a friendly attitude with you. 90% of recruiting is those people have to like you. And if they don't like you, forget it. They're never coming to work for you.
Right. Yeah. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
So, okay. So is this like texting or emailing, or does it kind of depend on the person?
It does depend on the person, but I like to think of it as a communication matrix, right? So I'm never always just calling. I'm not always just texting, always just emailing. Here's the big danger with a lot of rookie recruiters is that they think, oh, I'm just going to plug my 300-person database into Constant Contact or MailChimp, and I'm just going to email these people every week some dumb recruiting message, and I'm going to maybe get somebody to call me. Never going to happen. You're going to get the worst agents that move a company every 3 months. And it's just like, it's the worst, dumbest thing you can do. So let's throw that out. All great recruiters are personal relationship recruiters. In other words, every single thing they do is a personal message to you. It's not a generic mass messaging campaign. You're never going to get great people. So, but in those campaigns, I'm going to send you a personal message every day. So I might be sending 10 people a personal message about you or something. I might be sending 10 texts, but they're all personalized texts. I might be making 10 calls, but they're all personalized calls. That's the highest level recruiter, right? The people that are trying to phone it in and trying to do a mass 500 thing person, they're never going to recruit at a high level.
Yeah. So I kind of think of this from like, I I don't know. I guess I've just been in like a lot of different type of sales. Like I'm like, so do you have like a reverse engineering? Like if I want to recruit this many people to my team or my brokerage, I have to send this many texts a day or this many emails. Like, does it work like that? Because that's how my brain works.
100%. And so the path is in the math, right? And there's an algorithm to every sales, including recruiting. So here's the numbers. For every 5 people you touch, you reach out to, you should average 1 appointment. So if I'm doing 5 reach outs, I should get 1 appointment. Okay. So 5 calls, 5 texts, 5 emails. My goal is 1 appointment, and you'll get it if your messaging is correct and you've got great coaching on the other side and you're not just winging it all the time. So, and then for every 5 appointments you go on with experienced agents, you'll average 1 closed recruit. So now I know that if I want to recruit 2 people a month, it's simple math. I just run the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. Now, and when I talk about this, people say, well, I do way better than that, Jim. Really? Do you though? Because my guess is you're recruiting low-level people or brand new agents. Recruiting a brand new agent is, I was a brand new agent, so I don't want to discount it. But in terms of building a profitable team or a profitable brokerage, it's almost meaningless because 9 out of 10 of them are going to fail. So when you say I recruited 10 agents last month and 9 of them were new agents, congratulations, it's meaningless. You have to pivot and say, no, what matters is experienced agents. That's it, right?
So like at least 2 plus, like what are you saying, 2 plus years?
I call, here's my target model is 2 years in the business, so they've been vetted by the market. $2 to $10 million producer is my sweet spot. Now, why is that? Because if I can bring them in and they're doing $2 million and I can help them through my coaching, my systems, my mentorship to get to $4 million, now they're going to be super loyal. And your best recruiter is a satisfied, happy agent that's already on your team. So they're going to recruit for you, right? And then if I can take somebody to $4 million to $8 million, and then they're never going to leave. Your retention level will be super high because you've turned them into a superstar. They're double their income with you. So that's the best kind of situation, in my opinion. Now, of course, you'll take higher level production, but when you're starting out as a recruiter, you want to start where it's going to feel more comfortable. It's not going to be so intimidating for you, and that's a good place to start. 2 to 10 million.
I like that, and then you just time block those actions into your schedule based on what your goals are, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I always say if you want to grow your business as a recruiter, 1/8 of your day. 1/8 of your day is an hour out of every day. And you're going to lead generate during that hour. And the goal of your lead generation is very simple. I use the 4-1-1-1-1 strategy. 1 hour a day of uninterrupted lead gen for recruiting. During that hour, my goal is to set 1 appointment a day. Because I'm setting 1 appointment a day, I'm going on 1 appointment a day. And I'm adding 1 new person to my sphere of influence, my database, and what we call our sphere with our recruiting every day. So I'm targeting another agent like, oh, that'd be a good person, right? To add in. And to kind of circle back to your style of touch points, let me give you a quick secret on that. When you have your CRM that you're using for recruiting, and let's say that I called you today and I complimented you on something, right? And we just interacted a little bit. Now I'm going to say, okay, I'm not going to call her again because I just called her and I don't want to repeatedly call her. That would be weird. So now I'm going to do this in my CRM. I'm going to flag you for next contact. I'm going to push the little flag button in my CRM and I'm going to say 3 weeks from now, I'm going to send her a text about something. And then when I do that, I'm going to say 3 weeks from now, I'm going to send her a personal email about something. And it's going to be a constant personalized drip with the goal of setting an appointment at some point. And that's how I'm going to build my database.
Okay. I love it. That's like simple enough.
It's easy.
Then you got to keep them on. So, for those who don't have like coaching behind them, what are like, I guess you have to make a list of like what your value adds would be for someone to come over to your brokerage or your team.
Yeah, I can walk you through that a little bit. So here's a mistake that a novice recruiter will make is that they'll finally get the meeting. They'll be like, all right, I'm going to recruit somebody today. Right. And they think of it like new agent recruiting. And they're like, oh, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to close this person today. No, you're not. You're never going to close an experienced agent on the first meeting. When you start thinking like that, those people are going to run out the door. They're never going to talk to you again because they're going to feel too pressured. What we're doing is we're going to accept it's going to take multiple meetings, just like a for sale by owner. multiple meetings probably for me to land a decent agent. So I know people don't want to hear that, but that's the reality. So in my first meeting with you, it's a get to know you. It's a meet and greet. We're just going to talk. And what I'm going to say to you is, hey, just tell me about you. I'd love to know what you did before real estate. Well, what made you get in the real estate business? How's it going? And I'm one of my secret weapons that I give to my brokerage coaching students is an idea of doing a 5-year trajectory study. So if I'm meeting you, first of all, I've researched you on social media. I know everything there is to know about you. I've researched you on Google. I'm going to know more about you than your own broker does. Before we meet, I'm going to know you cold. And my 5-year trajectory study is going to go back 5 years in MLS. I'm going to say, what did you do in 2020, 2021, 22, 23? And I'm going to know everything about your business, your closed volume, number of buyers and seller units, average sales prices, your average list prices, your average days on market. I'm going to know your business better than you know it. So when we sit down, I'm going to say, hey, so before I meet with anybody, I always do a 5-year trajectory study just to see how your business is doing. Are you curious to see yours? Now, you can't say no. You're going to be like, I got to see this. Like, what did this guy do? Like, tell me what it is. So I'm going to pull it out and say, so check it out. Here's what you did with your business. I'm going to plot it out. It's going to be either going up, down, or sideways. Now, the good news for us as recruiters, because this is the #1 recruiting year you could possibly have, is that for every agent in America, their numbers are down for 2023 because those are the lowest numbers in 29 years.
Right.
So their numbers are going to look like this. And it's going to be a down trajectory. So you can say, now, where do you want your business to be in the next 5 years? And they're going to say, I want to do this, that, and the other. So let's talk about that. What needs to change to make that happen? And they're going to say what needs to change. You're going to say, I think we can help you with that. Can I show you what we can offer you? And now I'm going to focus around the hot buttons they have already stated, right? Mm-hmm. Again, the goal isn't to close. So I'm just going to say at the end, I'm going to have a presentation, and we can talk about that. I'm going to have my recruiting presentation with my value proposition. I'm going to walk them through it, but I'm going to say, hey, guys, this is a big decision. I don't expect you to make a decision today. Here's the only thing I'm going to ask from you. Take it home, talk about it with your significant other. But here, if you give me permission to do this, can we meet in another week or two? And we can talk about technology, because I'd love to sit down and give you the whole dog and pony show on our tech alone, because that's going to take an hour. Would you sit with me on technology? Now, if I can close you into the second appointment, I'm probably going to land you as an agent. Yeah. So the goal isn't to recruit you; it's to get to the second appointment. And at the second appointment, if I don't feel the close happening in the second appointment, like you're not getting excited enough, I'm gonna set the goal to get to the third appointment. My third appointment is going to be all about marketing and personal branding. And if I can't close you on that, I'm going to set the fourth appointment to get into coaching and mentorship. But I'm going to have a progression of meetings that walks people down a road, and that's the process.
Okay, gosh. Well, I like that you have like a whole system for this, and I feel like that's a big part of it. Like, do you? I guess if someone coaches with you on this, do you have like systems that you share?
Absolutely. Yeah. We walk them all the way through. We have a 4, meeting progression that we walk people through, and we get into objection handling. And, I'll give you an example. That would be, naturally people are going to come, and they're going to come with a bias about your company. Like everybody has a bias about the company. Right. So they say, here's why I don't think I could come to work for you. And they're going to say the bias, right? But what I like to do is to say the bias for them. So I'm going to take the sting out before they can say it. So if they say, well, your company's too small, Jim, I'm saying, you know what? I get it. And I might try to steal the punch from them and say, you know what most people say about our company is that it's too small. Have you heard that before? They're going to say yes. And I'm saying, well, the advantage of being with a small company is, and I'm going to fill in the blank, because we're small, we can give you more personal attention. We can give you more training, more resources. In a big company, you can get lost. When's the last time you talked to your broker? When's the last time you had a personal meeting with your broker? It's been a while. Those are the ways you start to hit. Or somebody will say, well, you're not a franchise. Well, yeah, I get it, but you're also paying X dollars for your franchise, or you're getting a lot of benefit from your franchise. So I'm taking the sting out before they get to it. And that really, really is effective. I mean, if you do it properly.
Yeah, I love it. So then what about like retention? Like obviously you said, if you help somebody go from, X dollars to obviously more than that, that's one way to keep somebody. But like, do you focus on other retention tips or?
Yeah, retention is absolutely critical. So retention is going to be all about personal relationships. And so here's the problem that most office leaders have, and team leaders, is that they fail to continue to look at people as people and look at them transactionally. Yeah. What we got to say is we got to look at every agent in our company relationally. And we got to say, does that person view me as their friend? So whether you view them as their friend, that's a whole different thing. But they have to view you as a friend, right?
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. First of all, friends refer friends. But then you got to go deeper and say, okay, if they're really my friend, then it's going to be a representative of how much time I'm spending with them, how much investment I know. Like, do I know their kids' names? Do I know their spouses' names? Do I know their anniversary? Do I know their birthdays? Do I know their favorite restaurant? Do I know, if they're a Mac user, a PC user? Do I know, their alma mater? Do I know the last job they had before real estate? When you start to say, well, I don't really know those things. You don't know those things because you really don't know them very well. So if you don't know them very well, them staying with you becomes a representation of your commission split or your tech stack. And so them leaving you you're like on a fine wire of them leaving you at any given time. The reason why people stay at companies for 20 or 30 years is because of the relationships they have with the brokerage leaders at the top of those companies. That's it.
Yeah.
So you want those people to stay with you. And here's what it's going to boil down to is what moves people is hard value. What keeps people is soft value. So soft value is culture of the company and the relationship that you have. So does your team have a great culture? Does your office have a great culture where people are like, I love working here. It's a great environment. I love the synergy. I love the energy. I love the fact that we do a social night every 6 to 8 weeks where we all go out and have fun together, drink together, party together, just experience things together. Or is it just, we're just punching a clock all the time? If you're just punching a clock, you're never going to keep people. You got to open your minds to this. Very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even like with offering different education or like other things that agents value too. Which I don't know, for us, I feel like we've got it good on that end with EXP, but if you're like looking to start your own brokerage, I'm sure that's like having to take the time to look into that stuff is.
Well, and you want to localize it too. So localized information is key when you're doing training and coaching. I'll give you a classic example of this today, right? This minute is we just had the NAR settlement happen, right? So the NAR settlement, like everybody's talking about it. So as a brokerage or as a team leader, you got to say, how am I helping my agents with the anxiety of this? Because this is an anxious moment for agents. Like they're fearful of their income. They're fearful of whether they can stay in the business. So what are we doing about it? So we're telling our brokerage and team leaders, brokerage coaching students and team leaders is there's 3 things you need to do like today, like right now. Number 1, you have to have a buyer presentation for all your agents and you got to start training them on the buyer presentation like today. The second thing is everybody in your company that's on your team has to know cold the local buyer representation agreement that the buyer representation is going to require. Like what are the documents that the buyers are going to sign? And third, you've got to train agents how to talk about buyer representation commissions, like what's going to come out of their mouths to actually have that conversation. So if I can win on those 3 elements and I can start saying we're doing training classes around this, we're giving people tools and resources around this, that's a massive recruiting tool, massive, because most office leaders, most team leaders are afraid to even touch it. They just don't even know what they're doing with it. So if you're ahead of that and you're saying, hey, come to a class we're teaching this week. We're gonna teach everybody how to do a buyer presentation. Come to a class, we're doing a representation class, jump in the hot seat. We're gonna do some scripting calls, this is gonna attract people.
Okay, cool. I like that a lot. So from there, do you want to talk more about like team building or I don't know, like I wanted to see where you wanted to take it.
Well, team building is interesting. I think I was just on another podcast and we got deep into teams. So with team building, here's my thought process on team building is that as a team leader, you got to say, what's my progression on my team build out? Like I'm an individual solo agent. What's my first step? My first step in general is to bring on an assistant, and that assistant is going to help me to get more systemized. Here's the first biggest mistake that people that want to build a team do. When they want to build a team, they say, I'm going to build a team, but I have no systems to bring a team member to plug into. So the team member joins your team and then they're like, now what? I'm like, oh, I don't know, go sell something and make me some money. Why would I do that? I'd just be a solo agent. I don't need you to do that. So the only reason somebody joins a team, you got to realize this, is number 1, they're going to plug into your systems. And number 2, you're going to give them leads. So as a team leader, I got to say, I have to have lead flow that's coming in through the team or teach people how to get lead flow. And I got to have great systems. So that's step 1. And if I have a great what I find when I'm coaching is that most team leaders are alphas, right? They're alphas, and they go out and they're rainmakers. They're all-stars, haymakers, rainmakers. They go out and just create business, but they're terrible at systems. They're terrible at they're just not wired that way. So you're like, oh, now here's a problem. You got this team, this massive alpha agent wants to build a team, but they have no clue how to build systems, which is fundamental to building a team. So what do I have to do? I've got to hire an assistant, an admin that complements me and builds the systems out. That's the number one. And here's the thing. Here's the other big mistake that team leaders make is they always tend to hire people because we're so egotistical as top agents, is that we hire people that are a reflection of us. Like, I'm an alpha. I'm going to hire an alpha because I like that alpha. We're like the same person. I want to bring in as many alphas as I can. That's the absolute worst. As a team leader, my first hire is to hire somebody directly, diametrically opposite to me. They're going to talk slower than me. They're going to be methodical. They're going to be analytical. They're going to have an engineering mind. And they're just going to be these people that love to sit at a desk and just pound things out. Completely different than me. And that's what I got to hire, right? So now she or he is building out the systems. Now I start to build out. Now I can hire my buyer's agent, my showing agent, my listing agents, my other folks on my team. But until I start with that first process, it's a challenge.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So
processes.
When you coach on this, do you have systems that people can get from you, or?
Yes. So we have a whole portal for people to plug into. One of those parts of the portal is our checklists and forms. So people can go in there. We're downloading checklists and forms from teams and offices around the country. They can come in there and grab a bunch of systems they can just literally plug into, format it, change it up for their market, and then run with it. So we got all kinds of systems and checklists in there for them.
I love it. Yeah. Do you have other resources for those that
yeah, we absolutely do. So we also have a full-time marketing director. And so our marketing director builds out marketing pieces. One of the things he builds out, which is super cool for offices and teams, is that we build out a website that's a social media website every single month. So for March, we've got one for March, and it has 15 to 20 different social media pieces already pre-built, all Canva friendly. So agents can just reach in, grab their Canva friendly social media post. We've already written 4 or 5 captions. They can grab that, plug it out, and go into and just run with it on social media. So they should be doing more than that, but it definitely helps them to kind of stay on top of it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, it makes anything to make life easier.
Right.
Yes.
Kind of systemize, right? Make it easier.
So do you work with people? Well, I guess honestly now I say with EXP, but it seems like almost every brokerage has some sort of model for agents to get paid. I mean, it depends on what they get paid or what the, I guess, compensation is, but it seems like even, Keller Williams has profit share, or there's Real, LPT, Epic. I mean, there's all these different ones coming, and then Exit has some sort of, are you working with these types of brokerages that have revenue share more so, or is it more individual brokerages?
It's a mix. We have about half of our brokerages in our system are independent, but we've got EXP brokerages, or team leaders. We've got transactional models where it's $500 a transaction, $700 a transaction. And then we've got traditional offices that are split-based models. We have cap models. There's a million different models in real estate, right? And they all work. It's just a matter of the value proposition that you're putting behind it.
Yeah.
So, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
I think it'll be the same, how we kind of have that even just for listing agents, but after this NAR settlement, I feel like it's going to be the same for buyer's agents, where there's going to be all these different types of, ways that buyer's agents get their commission, or there's or what you can hire them for, an a la carte menu type deal.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of models that come out of this for sure. I mean, you're going to see some that are just basically a showing agent, some that are full-blown, full representation, part representation, limited representation. There's going to be a lot of different models there for sure.
Yeah. What is your advice for agents going forward after this settlement? If it all, goes into play?
The number one thing is you should, one of my coaches gave me a great piece of advice, and it just applies to this right now. And he said this, that all of your anxiety in life and in business flows from one thing, All your anxiety in life and business flows from focusing on things you cannot control.
Yeah.
And it's such a good lesson, right? And then what's the solution? The solution is to focus on the things you can control. So when we talk about this NAR thing, right? What can I control? Well, I can control the fact that with every buyer going forward, and I'm not going to wait till July 15th either. I'm going to start today. With every buyer, I'm going to start meeting with them, and I'm going to say out of my mouth, hey, can I just take 10 minutes and kind of show you the process of buying a house? Can I show you how I work? And now I'm going to bring out my buyer presentation, and I'm going to walk people through, here's all the steps. Here's the 10 steps in buying a house. And then at the end of that, I'm going to say, and the way that I work with all my buyers is through a buyer representation agreement. And I'll put that out, and I'm just going to start doing it. It's going to feel unnatural. It's going to feel weird the first few times I do it, but I'm going to get used to it. And that's the key. But what a lot of people are missing right now is they're focused on the buyer side, but we're not focusing on the seller side. Because today, right now, across the country, I'm seeing this a lot, is that people don't realize that NAR, before this settlement, told every MLS in the country that buyers or sellers could go to zero on buyer representation today. They don't have to wait. They can go to zero now, right? So what we're starting to see is sellers are starting to say, hey, I just watched the news, and do I have to pay a buyer's rep? And they don't today. They don't have to wait for this settlement to happen. So when we're sitting with a seller, we got to be able to prepare ourselves for that conversation. And what are we going to say in that situation? So our coaching around that is to say, yeah, that's true. You don't have to pay a buyer's rep, but can I share a few things with you around that? And what I'm going to share with them is, here's one technique, is that I did a commission survey around your listing. And we looked at what everybody's offering for around your property. And, the average is most sellers are offering 2.5%, 3% on all the listings around you. So, you can choose not to offer a buyer rep fee, but it's going to put you at a competitive disadvantage, and then we walk them down that process. But those are the things I'd be preparing for. You need to adjust your listing presentation and your buyer presentation.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And I like, do we do that now? I'm just wondering, like, if I start working on that or wait to see what, what like rules might come in place, like that our MLS might put out beyond, the two that they're talking about. Do I see what EXP puts out? Like I'm just.
You certainly could. I mean, I taught ABR for 10 years, the accredited buyer representation class.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've been teaching this for years. I don't think there's any reason to wait to put buyers under a representation agreement. Right. So that's not going to change your business practice other than having buyers say out loud and in writing that they're loyal to you. It's a loyalty agreement. And it's just saying, hey, we're going to work together exclusively. If I find you a house that you like, I'm going to be paid a fee at closing. Now, most of the time, that fee is going to be paid by the seller through our representation agreement with the seller. So that's going to be true now until July 15th. So why wouldn't I do that? And 99% of the time, the buyer's not going to ever write me a check. But let's talk about what happens after July 15th. So let's say you assume you start doing that now. After July 15th, here's what's going to happen. I can almost guarantee you across the country. What's going to happen is you're still going to sign that buyer rep agreement. Let's say 3%, 2.5%, 2%, whatever you're charging. I'm not price fixing, whatever the number is. And then let's say the seller is not offering any commission. Here's what's going to start to happen. Buyer's agents on the offer are going to say the seller is agreeing to pay the buyer representation fee of 2%, of 3%, on 1.5%. And now it's going to be negotiation within the offer. And if they can't come to an agreement, your buyer doesn't have to buy that house. They can move on to the next house, right? So it's going to become a negotiation. People feel like this is going to be a title shift. I think it's going to be more of a ledger line shift than a title shift. It's not going to be as big a deal as maybe we're anticipating. I think we're going to move through this faster than we anticipate. Yeah.
I think so too. And I feel like the media has got everybody pretty hyped up on it.
Yeah. And right now, every media story is almost all of them universally are wrong right now. So part of our job is educating the public.
Literally. I've been thinking the same thing. Yeah. The same thing. So crazy. Well, I would love to hear a little bit more about like any just hacks, tips, or tricks you have for our audience. Or even like resources or books or podcasts that you think are helpful?
So as a brokerage leader or team leader, a couple of things, some of the things that I use as a resource, I use NAR Economist blog. If you haven't been on part of that, that's great. Of course, I use Inman. I use Riz Media, which is great. The other big one, which, I know it's a competitive group out there. Redfin has got great housing data though.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
KCM blog has got great data. I use them all the time. So those are great places to get information where you can educate yourself and your team and your brokerage. So I would look at that. You can also go to my website, erealestatecoach.com, and we've got a podcast there. And we've also got a vlog there as well. So you can hop on there and check out all of our vlog materials that we're putting out all the time as well.
Cool. So could you walk us a little bit of like what it would be like to work with you?
Yeah. So what happens when brokerages sign up with my team, we meet with them twice a month in a kind of a mastermind session with 30 to 40 other brokers from across the country. And we're in a giant mastermind. It's an hour. And what we're doing is I'm taking everybody through guided coaching where we're talking about recruiting, retention, profitability strategies, commission plans, recruiting presentations, all the deep dive stuff. And then at the end, it's accountability coaching because we all raise our hands at the end and we say, okay, based on what you just learned, what are you going to commit to over the next 2 weeks? And then when we come back together 2 weeks later, everybody raises his hand and say, what did you get done? So it's like being on an athletic team, right? And you're like, okay, I got to face my team members. Not everybody gets everything done, but it definitely gives you a little push. And the people that are in our system are just crushing it with recruiting. A lot of them are recruiting 3 to 4 to 5 agents a month that are in the system. And then in between those 2 week periods, I meet with anybody that wants to meet with me by phone call, by text, by email, by Zoom. They can hop on a room and we'll talk. And a lot of times they'll say, Jim, I just had a recruiting meeting and I got this objection. What would you say in this situation? How would you handle this? So everybody, takes advantage of that all the time. And then on top of that, we give them a full copy of the recording, give them a full copy of all the notes from each session. Like last week, we jumped into buyer representation agreements and buyer presentations. Everybody shared theirs. And then this morning, I put them out to everybody so everybody can learn from each other's presentations. There's a lot of sharing happening too. And then every agent that's on the team or in the brokerage gets access to my personal agent coaching, which gives them 20 weeks of coaching for kind of like a boot camp. And then I give them 3 live coaching sessions every single week. So the agents are getting a ton of coaching within each brokerage as well.
Wow. And then do you have a team that helps you?
I do have a team. Yeah, I've got a marketing director. I've got a couple people on my team. I've got a copywriter. We got a videographer. So we got about 5 or 6 people. But unlike a lot of other coaches out there in the country, I don't have 100 coaches. The coaching comes from me directly. There's not other coaches people are assigned to.
Yeah, versus like a Tom Ferry or something.
Exactly. It's not like that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, any other last hacks, tips, or tricks around team building or
I would just say recruiting? Recruiting and retention. I would say, if you're a brokerage owner or team leader, your business is a direct reflection of your recruiting talents, right?
Right.
And recruiting talent is not a natural God-given thing. So it's unnatural in a lot of ways. So you have to say, how am I going to get better? What am I going to do to be a better recruiter? Because the way I'm going to grow my business is through recruiting. And that's the only way I'm going to build profitability over the long haul. It's the only way I'm going to build a long-term business model. So I got to find a way to get better, whether it's listening to podcasts, reading books, joining a coaching platform, but figure out a way that you're going to get better and then commit the time to it. Here's the thing. For 2024, everybody is at war with consistency, right? Because you get dragged in a million different other areas that are secondary priorities. And the secondary priorities take you away from what's important. What's important for you is everyday recruiting. Everything else is a secondary priority. So that's the ultimate thing. We got to say our consistency is what's going to win the war. Everything revolves around that. And until you get there, you're never going to reach your full potential. So that would be my message.
Yes. Okay. I love that.
Yeah, I do too.
So if people want to connect with you, it's erealestatecoach.com.
Yeah, and if they hop in there, they can hop into a free seminar that we just put out called Rockstar Recruiting. It's a 2-hour free webinar. They can just sign up, jump in. They're going to get a bunch of text, scripts, emails that they can plug into right away. And then if they want to take it further and actually jump into coaching or just learn more about it, they can sign up for a discovery call and we can have a conversation.
Okay, awesome. I love it. Well, good. Well, Casey, do you have anything else before we wrap up?
I do not. I mean, sounds like I don't know. He's got it figured out.
I know, literally. I'm like, it's just all the systems. I love it.
Yeah.
But now it's like anybody can have these systems, but it's like you said, it's the consistency of putting the effort in. So. So who's going to take advantage of that now that you're listening to this?
Hopefully everybody.
Exactly.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, Jim, thank you so much for coming on. Like
Pleasure.
we said before, guys, if you want to connect with Jim, erealestatecoach.com. And again, it's Jim Remley. And if you liked this episode, if you didn't like this episode, any feedback on this episode, we'd love for you to not only follow us on Apple and Spotify podcasts, but leave a review, whether it be positive or negative. We're always open to feedback, and we want to do what we can to make this podcast even better. What else? I'm trying to think. Oh, follow us on social media. Jim, are you on social media?
Yep, I'm all over social media. Real Estate Coach. Just look for that. You'll see me everywhere.
Perfect. I'm going to follow you on Instagram and Facebook. Those are my favorites.
Love it.
And click the bell.
Yes. Yeah. And if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the bell. I'm Hallie B. McCrory on Instagram. That's my handle. And then if you want to follow my real estate page, it's Empower Real Estate GRP. And then Casey is at CB Stiers.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Well, good. Well, thank you everybody for listening in on this, and we will see you next week for another episode of Realtor Hacks, Tips, and Tricks. Thanks, guys.
That sounds great. See you guys.